Over the past few years, I've been able to travel all over the world to run the biggest races. And that has opened my eyes to new possibilities of where I could go and what I could see on my run. So it's time to hop on a plane and head to Africa. This is a runner's weekend in Morocco.
Yo, what's going on? Just made it to the hotel Idou Anfa in Casablanca, Morocco. It's been a really long day of travel, but it's gonna be worth it. I'm here with Race to Adventure, and over the next week or so, we're gonna be traveling to a different city in Morocco, going for a run, doing some exploring in a different location every day. It's gonna be a pretty wild adventure. I can't wait. This is my first time in Africa, first time in Morocco. First things first, let's go get registered with the group, and then we'll do a racers meeting and then get some food.
I took the elevator down to a large conference room where you checked in and got your bib. The staff doctors were there and verified that I had no medical conditions that they needed to be aware of, and then I picked up my race shirt. There was also additional Race to Adventure merch available for purchase, and energy levels were high. After bib pickup, we all headed downstairs to a different conference room for a racers meeting. We got to meet our run guides, Paolo and Abdou. Abdou is from Morocco, and he introduced us to the rest of the team of drivers and staff. This was also a chance for all the racers to meet each other in a way. This company has a lot of repeat racers, which I found reassuring. And while each Race to Adventure trip is in a different location, it doesn't seem like they ever go to the same place twice. A decent number of people have been on 10 or more of these adventures. There were a bit more than 100 of us in Morocco, and only about a third of us seemed to be first-timers.
Our guys finished the race briefing. Now it's time to eat.
Dinner was at the hotel, but there was a lot of food I had never eaten before. And for this trip, I decided I would try something new. I'm normally a vegetarian, or more precisely, I'm pescatarian. But so far in my travels, I felt like this approach to food that has served me well at home was causing me to miss out on some important cultural experiences abroad. And since my diet is not required by allergy or religion, I thought I would try the meat. The best thing I had was the lamb tagine. The chicken tasted like chicken, and the whitefish was delicious. After dinner, a few of us hit up the tabak next door and got some snacks and bottled water. Breakfast at the hotel was pretty standard Western fare. Coffee, pastries, and eggs. But there was also dates, which were incredible in Morocco. After breakfast, it was time to pack up and board the buses for our next location, Essaouira. The trip down the coast would be a long one, but we did have plenty of rest stops, like this one at the Argan Oil Women's Cooperative. Argan oil is a highly sought-after cosmetic ingredient, and argan trees only grow in this region of the world. Women collect the fruit of the tree to collect the nut inside. The outer fruit portion is removed and fed to the goats, and the nut is cracked open to reveal a kernel. The kernel is then pressed for its oil, which is then used to make soaps, perfumes, and lotions.
Whew. Out of the bus. After about 7 hours of riding the bus, it's time to race. Not sure what the race time is. I think it's just they're gonna go out. We follow the ATV. I think we're gonna run along the beach towards or to the hotel. I think that's the plan for that. We're about 3/4 of a mile into this first race. Should be about 4 miles total. It's very sandy. Almost at the 2-mile mark, a little less than halfway. It is so windy, so much headwind. Ah! $5K in, this sand and this headwind, so exhausting. I can't wait for the finish. Good job, guys. Awesome job. Good job. Oh, so exhausting. That was a grueling race, but ultimately a lot of fun. Whew, that sand and that wind really took it out of me. And a lot of people got really wet depending on when the waves were hitting the sand. But it looks like everyone's in good spirits. We tried getting into the ocean a little bit. I didn't go too far, it was too cold for that. But very refreshing. Now we're gonna check into the hotel and then go and explore for a little while. Here's our room for the night. It's like an identical set as the last one, just slightly different finishes.
There were a lot of couples on this trip, but even if you weren't there with a partner, most people had roommates, as did I. My roommate was a guy about my age with the kids about the same age as my kids. I didn't mind having a roommate, but as a courtesy to him, I didn't do much filming inside any of the hotel rooms for this trip. After dropping my stuff off, I met up with a new friend I had made, and we decided to explore the local Medina.
Just wandering around. This whole city is like a movie set.
I had done a bit of research about filming in Morocco, and from what I gathered, filming in public isn't always well received, which is completely understandable. Fun fact, there is a YouTuber who is famous in Morocco, and he is known for visiting various Medinas and small towns and highlighting local foods. And he happens to also be Korean. I discovered this from a customs agent on my way out of the country who asked me if I was that guy. I told him I am, in fact, a YouTuber, but that guy is not me. But the point is, I asked the custom agent how Moroccans receive this outsider that is making videos about their food and their culture, and he said that that YouTuber is very popular and that Moroccans love him. There isn't a lot of English spoken in Morocco. Arabic and Berber are the official languages, and other than that, a lot of people speak French, sometimes Spanish. I don't really speak Spanish, and I took French 101 back in college in 1998, so buying food was a bit of an adventure.
Thanks. All right, I think this is what they were making. Let me put like a sugar inside.
Yeah.
What's that other flavor that's in? Is that like, it's like rose water or something like that?
Later, we found a sandwich shop with a super long line, so we got something to eat there. The sandwich had some kind of ground meat or sausage in it, pickled vegetables, and French fries. The bread was magnificent, and the views for our little impromptu picnic were incredible. By sunset, it was time to head back to the hotel to get ready for dinner. Morocco isn't really a coffee culture. Instead, they drink mint tea.
It's steeped with honey or sugar, and it's a show of hospitality to pour it from as high as possible. And here they served it with a pastry that was just slightly sweet with a sesame flavor. Dinner itself was fairly similar to what we had in Casablanca: steamed veggies, chicken, and delicious bread. By the following morning, I had found all the other high mileage runners in the group. We decided to meet at 5:30 a.m. to get some extra miles in. We decided to run through the Medina I had visited the day before, but I couldn't quite get a feel for whether this was something we should be doing or not. I felt better that at least we had someone in our group who was former military, spoke Arabic, and most importantly, had a flashlight. After a few easy miles around town, we made our way to breakfast before we had to hop back on the bus. Our next race would be in Agafay. All right, guys, we have made it to Agafay. Altitude 2,000 feet. I'm gonna go for a run. The second race would be a bit longer and hillier than the first day. We were greeted to a very warm welcome as we settled in and used the bathrooms before the race. The weather was inviting and the views were spectacular, but before long, it was time to line up and race. My strategy for today is to ride all the downhills and then chill on all the uphills. There'll be a decent amount of climbing today. We're heading uphill. Whew, it's hard. Come on, Josh. Let's go. Just shuffle up this incline. And we're marching. I think that's the top of where we're going. Where's the finish? That is exhausting. Great job out there. The meal that we had in Agafay was probably one of my favorite from the trip. There was butternut squash and some of the most delicious eggplant I think I've ever had. And there was beets and rice and pasta. And after lunch, I tried to take a dip in the pool. Ooh, oh my God, that's cold. Whoa, that is freezing cold. Oh.
Soon, it was time to hop back on the bus for the thankfully short ride to Marrakesh. We didn't have a ton of daylight left when we arrived, so we quickly dropped our bags and headed off to the market. This is the place that Marrakesh is known for. It had a similar vibe to the Medina we had visited in Essaouira, but with a massive infusion of intensity. Many of the merchants had barkers to try and bring people in to shop or buy their juices or eat dinner. And my normal instinct is to ignore anyone who ever asks where I'm visiting from. But this seemed to anger the locals. And we found out that the more polite way to express disinterest is to say, maybe later. And so, while we had to say maybe later to the market to have dinner with the group, we were actually looking forward to returning the next day. Tuesday morning, the high mileage crew reconvened. We ran back over to the market, and it was quite the contrast to run through it while everyone was still asleep. Seeing the local mosque lit up in the silent night was impressive, and we felt like we had all the beauty of Marrakesh to ourselves. After breakfast, it was time to get back in the bus again. And today we were headed for a run at elevation in a town called Imlil, nestled in the Atlas Mountains. I was able to sleep for the first part of the trip, which was flat. And then I woke up when I noticed that the bus was quickly climbing.
All right, guys, bathroom break. We made it over the pass and we're heading down. I think we're still at about 4,000 feet.
Everywhere sells souvenirs in Morocco, but this was my favorite place to shop of anywhere we went. Now, haggling is pretty much required in this country, which I found stressful, but the guy working there assured me that he was giving me the best prices. Back on the bus, I thought it would literally be all downhill from there, but I was wrong. The road got windier and higher. The views were really nice though.
All right, we passed the highest part of the pass, which we climbed back up to about 6,900 feet. We're a little bit lower than that now, and we're gonna stop for lunch.
Lunch was at a comfortable restaurant with gorgeous views. There was bread and tomato salad, and one of my favorite things was this Berber omelet. It was kind of like a shakshuka, if you're familiar with that. Rich tomato and paprika sauce, scrambled eggs, onions, and meatballs. I would have been very happy to just stay at the restaurant all day long and stare at the mountains. But I'm glad I got myself back on the bus, because our next destination of Imlil would be worth the trip.
All right, guys, we are 2 hours outside of Marrakesh. Altitude is 5,200 feet. Temperature is below 40 degrees. We got a 5-minute hike, and then we'll get started on the race.
Imlil was a town that was both exotic and familiar. Even though it reminded me of a lot of other mountain towns, there was still that feeling of language and cultural barrier that kept me off balance.
All right, let's do this, Pete.
All right, guys, we're getting going. We're starting at about 5,400 feet. I think we got about 1,000 feet to gain over the next 4 miles and change. This is gonna be a struggle. Alright, we're about half a mile in. We've been doing just climbing the whole time. This is not fun.
Almost 500 feet again.
That means we're halfway there. A mile into the race, we got a nice little stretch of flat. I think we've got one more big climb, big climb. Then it'll be mostly downhill from there.
After the race, we had lunch. Race to Adventure had hired some local families to provide this food for us. The potatoes were the star of the meal, the pasta salad was satisfying, and the chicken was chicken. Most of us decided to return to the market in Marrakesh, but by this point I had already picked up all the things I wanted to buy for my family, and I still had many leftover sweets in my hotel room from the visit yesterday. So we just mostly took it all in. It started to rain, so many of the vendors left quite early. But the snake charmers, who are super aggressive about being paid to have their snakes photographed, remained. That evening's dinner would be something unique. We were heading to Chez Ali. Chez Ali is basically Moroccan medieval times. It is a place built for groups of our size, and it is meant to deliver the kinds of experiences that many tourists like us want to have. First, we feasted. There was so much food. Bread, couscous, veggies, chicken, and this giant thing that is sweet and flaky like a baklava, but also has pulled chicken at the bottom. And there was music. Then, it was time to head outside for the show. There were horses and trick riding, and then there was guns. This was literally my first rodeo, and I was super into it. The following morning, the high mileage crew got together to run the same route as the day before. It was wet and quite chilly out, and we were all getting tired from the week of racing and adventures. There was a lot of walking this morning, which was welcome. After breakfast, we got on the buses for our next trip to go to the ancient city of Ait Binhaddou.
Alright guys, we are outside of Ait Binhaddou, about 3,900 feet altitude. Let's go for a run. 1.4 miles in. It is crazy windy, but I can see the finish way off in the distance. The area has been getting a lot of rain, so anytime this dry desert sand looks a little moist, it's just like quicksand. It sucks you in. Just got lost. Have to go back a little bit. I never thought I'd have muddy water crossings in the desert.
Ait Binhaddou is an ancient city and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There's a newer part that people live in now, but after our race, we had a chance to explore the old, original part. Ait Binhaddou has also been in a lot of movies, like Gladiator, Game of Thrones. In fact, there was another movie being filmed there at the time, and they had built a new portion of the city that would leverage the old city as part of its backdrop. Ait Binhaddou had once been an important city along a trade route connecting the Sahara to Marrakesh, with fortification on one side from the mountain into which the city was built, and on the other sides, the now mostly dry riverbed was once a natural moat. Caravans of camels would travel for days, and then all the merchants' goods would be loaded onto the boats, which were then floated across the river into the city for trade. Now, there is still trade of sorts happening in the old city. Art and other souvenirs are available for purchase. And I wondered how it was that a person would secure rights to sell stuff in there. The hallways rang a variety of world languages like American English, German, and whatever else the tourists happen to speak. The idea of this city being an important trading hub seems so distant to what I was walking through. But how do you even try to understand what life was like for a person that lived 4,000 miles away and a millennium ago? The following morning, we packed up and got on the buses again, and we'd be heading deeper into the desert.
We are about an hour and 15 minutes from the last place. We've got about an hour for the next place, so we're gonna stop a little bit here, a little rest stop. The last place we were at is called Rose Valley. Because there's a lot of roses and stuff that grow there, and it had me really thinking about something I've been thinking about a lot this entire trip, like the idea of what's native or indigenous to the region. Our guide was telling us that the roses aren't originally native to Morocco, but they were brought as Islam spread through the region in Africa, northern Africa. Because part of the Hajj, or the pilgrimage that Muslims go on, they would go to Saudi Arabia where there were roses, and they'd bring those flowers back. Which means that I think the roses have been growing in this region for like 1,000 years or 1,200 years. So they're not from here, but at what point do you become from a place? It's something I think about when I see the horses, when I see palm trees, oranges, that are all here, but I don't know what's from here or if it even matters. It's just something that I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around how old things are here, how much history there is. Anyway, let's go to the bathroom.
When we stopped for lunch, we had another beautiful spread of food. Butternut squash soup, beets, rice, couscous, lamb tagine, vegetables, and a pastry with a powdered sugar on top and a meat and dried fruit filling on the inside. Like a sweet pot pie, kind of. Finally, we arrived at our next hotel in Chergui. It was a rather nice resort with a pool that was ice cold and a bar that had Casablanca beers. We had a couple hours to get settled in and stretch our legs before suiting up for the last race of the week, a race through the desert.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, guys. Last race. Let's go. Today's race through the sand dunes, about 7K total, or 1K in, million packets, pulling away. I'm gonna let him go. Coming up to the oasis, a little bit short of halfway. Still in fourth. Now we're hitting the really mushy stuff. No floating whatsoever. We're out of the sand. About a mile to go.
After the race, we drank some water, enjoyed some snacks, and waited for the sun to set over the desert. And then, the high mileage crew got together for one last run.
We are gonna tack on some extra miles, run it back. We had to bring two of the guides with us. One of them is Berber, which is something we needed in order to be able to run out here. All right, at this little oasis, there is a tent. I don't know if you can even see it. Are there nomads in there?
No.
Okay.
But you check it out.
Yeah.
They use them. They leave them there for people. Watch the step. Watch the step.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's a little pool in here, man.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's very spacious in here.
Yeah. And it is warm in here.
This is why you don't say no on trips.
We have that room. Oh, we say yes. Oh, yeah.
Make a tea.
The next morning, we headed out for the thing I was most looking forward to on this trip. We were heading to the dunes of the Sahara. There were over 100 of us in our group, and it was an incredible feat of organization just to see so many camels in one place at one time. Getting onto the camel and having it rise to start walking felt like riding a tauntaun. And as we slowly started to meander through the dunes, it felt not only like we were in a completely different world, but we might as well have been in a completely different time. All right, we're back in Marsuka. We're gonna stop at the Maison Touareg. See what there is to see. Maison Touareg was a rest stop that did have bathrooms, but it also had a very unique selection of Moroccan antiques. Tapestries, rugs, doors, and jewelry. There was also a place to have some more mint tea, which by this point of the trip, I was starting to really love. When we returned to the hotel, we got our medals for completing the week of races, and while the races weren't chip timed, they did keep a daily and overall ranking. I ended up finishing 3rd male and 4th overall for the week. At dinner each night, we'd have a quick group debrief of the day and discuss plans for the next. But on this night, we had our meeting poolside, and then after dinner, we had our post-race party. The following morning came way too soon as we had to board a very early flight to get back to Casablanca. Once we landed, we had our last group activity, a visit to the Hassan II Mosque. The mosque in Casablanca is the 2nd largest in Africa and the 14th largest in the world. It was completed in 1993 and commissioned by King Hassan II. And it's the only mosque in Casablanca and one of the few in all of Morocco that permits non-Muslim visitors. The plaza outside the mosque can hold up to 80,000 for prayers, with another 25,000 able to fit inside the mosque. The official tour goes through the mosque kind of backwards, I think. We started in the main room where prayers are held. Men pray on the lower level and women pray on the upper mezzanine. We had to take off our shoes while in this space, and the cavernous room has a roof that retracts open up to the night sky. From there, we went to the lower levels where Muslims can wash before prayer. Men and women have separate areas for this as well. Finally, we exited through the steps back out onto the main plaza. It had only been about a week since I had originally arrived in Casablanca to start this trip. And since then, it felt like I had done so much. From beaches, to mountains, to dunes and back. I got to see such a variety of what Morocco has to offer. And the running was so good.